Whoa, 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 whoa.
Wait, what's the problem?
This isn't a, this is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza and the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. Guys, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Hit the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah, big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top. Down the lane. Running jumper. Off the front rim. And in.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites. Hello and welcome to the Polar Opposites Sports Extravaganza. I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
is Craig Moffitt.
Hey, Craig.
Matty, how you doing, man?
Oh, man. Fantastic. Real quick, Twitter at PolarOppo, Instagram and Threads at PolarOppoPod. You can also check out past shows. Go to our live page on YouTube. They're all right there. You can check out episodes. We've done a lot of movie stuff. If you like that, we have discussions, like in-depth, really serious discussions about who's the worst party, the alpha betas or the nerds, the tri-lambs, things like that. Check it out at our YouTube page. Just search Polar Opposites. Check all that out. Craig, we got a lot to get to today. We got some New York stuff. We got some non-New York stuff. We got some guys getting ball sacked. It's a summertime extravaganza is what it is, Craig.
It is. It's a hodgepodge of everything you could hope for going on in New York sports, everything you could hope for going on around nationally, and we have an off-the-grid story today for the week that deals with death, and not to bring down the mood, of course, but Matt's wearing black, I'm wearing white, so it's like angel, devil, whatever the hell it is.
Which one am I?
I don't know. Black screen, black t-shirt, death maybe.
Listen,
all you're missing is a hood, and you'd be Death from Family Guy.
That'd be great. I would love to be Death. Are you kidding?
So, but again, we have a lot to do, so let's cut the chase and let's get right to it. We'll start with our previously in New York sports segment, which everything that happened this week in the world of New York sports, and probably the big story of the week. And I'm not entirely sure if it's being blown out of proportion or if there's something there. It's kind of like one of those where there's smoke, there's fire type of stories. And that's the situation going on with Saquon Barkley, who turned down, well, basically the 4 p.m. franchise tag passed without a new deal, and no deal was done between the Giants and Barkley. Mm-hmm. Barkley is basically threatening a holdout that could last into week 1. Maddie and I have been around the block long enough to know that never happens almost. It's very, very rare. And when it does happen, it's never a good thing. And if you want to talk about the last guy who did it was Le'Veon Bell, which pretty much ruined his career, right, Maddie?
Indeed, it did. Hey, Craig, listen, we know Ted DiBiase said it best.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their price. And when that money stops coming in, guess what you start doing? Getting on that field.
So basically, it's a lot of, once the game checks start getting fined, that's when you see the guy who show up to camp real quick. Like, it's happened so many times. So basically, in a nutshell, as we said before, Barkley was unable to come to an agreement with the Giants on a new contract, and he'll have to play this season on the franchise tag. That'll pay him a little over $10 million. Barkley put out a one-sentence tweet after the deadline passed with no deal, basically saying it is what it is. He vented his frustrations on the Money Matters podcast, whatever that is, where he said this.
Crypto Bro podcast.
He said,
fuck out of here with this crypto nonsense.
He said, quote, "I could say F you to the Giants. I could say F you to my teammates. You want me to show you my worth? You want me to show you how valuable I am to the team? I won't show up. I won't play it down. And that's a play I could use." So, Maddie, the question basically is this, and we might have just answered it, but I want to hear your in-depth point of view on it. Does Barkley threatening a holdout of any kind seem like nothing more than white noise?
I mean, go ahead, man. Like, look, go ahead. If that's the hill you want to die on, go ahead. But the problem I have here is that, like, what I need is there's been conflicting reports about what the guaranteed money was compared to what the average annual value was and all that stuff. So we're getting conflicting reports. I've heard it was going to be like 26 million guaranteed over 2 years, which is I think is essentially or like 24 million, whatever the 2 years of the tag worked out to be. I think it was 26.
Right.
That he was going to get over 2 years. But here's the problem, man. Here's the problem, Saquon. And I'm sorry, but you know what? You're like 20 years too late being a running back. Like, that's sorry. Like, if this is 2002, you know what you get? A huge ass contract. Right? Am I wrong? But
No,
that's not the way the game's played anymore. And here's the other problem, Saquon. You've not been healthy 1 year of your career. Not once have you been healthy. And I know it's football and like guys get hurt all the time, but like you want all this guaranteed money, but then you can't guarantee that you're going to be healthy. And then because we're paying you this much money, we can't necessarily have good backups to back you up when you get injured or other positions. So like, I'm sorry that you play an undervalued position. Like, I'm sorry. I really am. But you play an undervalued position. You're not like the money you think you're going to get.
It's like a changing of the guard right now in the NFL. And you and I can see that the NFL has become more of a passing league,
right?
With, Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, and just to name a few quarterbacks off the top. And more quarterbacks are actually running more on like read options. And, you see the way Daniel Jones really thrived as a rusher last year for the Giants. And you really see how Lamar Jackson is when he gets an open field to run. A lot of offensive coordinators I don't want to say they're phasing out the running back because there are still a few teams who really value their running backs, like the Titans with Derrick Henry and, a few others. Yeah, the Eagles with they had Miles Sanders last year, but I mean, there are a lot of teams that do like their running backs in general, but you can also argue that it's a dying position in a way because a lot of guys just don't have they don't have the endurance anymore, or they don't have the lifespan of a running back in the NFL, because once you hit 30 years old, most teams are already, ready to move on. And they're drafting guys now in the 3rd and 4th rounds of drafts because they don't want to waste a 1st round pick on a running back.
You also got to remember, Craig, the other thing too is, and we don't talk about this a lot, but like these guys get beat to shit in college. Yeah. Like their college coach don't give a rat's ass about their NFL career. Yeah. They just don't. Like you go back and look how many carries Saquon had in college and you watch it and it's like that dude is one turn away from like breaking his knee off. And it's exactly what happened. So like in the end, like, I'm sorry. Here's the thing. Mama, don't let your baby grow up to be running backs. Like, that's it. Like, just don't be a running back anymore. If you can do anything else, do that.
And that's part of the reason. Field. And the thing is, the Giants drafted a running back this year, didn't they? Like in the 3rd round or something like that. I forgot. Some kid from Oklahoma,
Gray.
I think.
Gray. His last name is Gray, I think.
But even if you look on the free agent market too, there's some pretty solid backs that are available. I mean, granted, you're not going to expect these guys to carry 25, 26 times a game, but they're there to be depth for your running back position. So if you had a rookie, you can easily have him pair off with this person. If you look at Kareem Hunt is still available, Leonard Fournette is still available, Dalvin Cook is still available, Ezekiel Elliott is still available. And while these guys are not really they're kind of a shell of their former selves in a way. They're not nearly as good as they were a few years ago. The fact is most teams are just going to wait this out as long as they can if they want to get a running back and pair them with a younger back. Like look at the Jets with Breece Hall, and Breece Hall is still recovering from an ACL surgery. So they drafted this kid, Izzy Abanikanda from Pitt. Right. They're going to try to use him. The Falcons draft Bijan Robinson a year after they draft Tyler Algier from BYU. So a lot of teams, I'm not necessarily saying they're phasing out the position maybe, but I think that they're just adding so much depth and they're just saying to themselves, look, it's getting to the point where we can just draft a kid now in the 3rd or 4th round and just all he's got to do is hand the ball, hit the hole, and that's pretty much it.
No, Craig, see, I don't think they're phasing out the position. I think they're keeping the position. What they've learned is how to use the position, right? So they've learned to use the guy up in those 5 years because they know after that they could just draft another guy to use up in those couple years and so on and so forth down the line. It's like Kyle Shanahan, man. Like we're not the biggest Shanahan fans, but the one thing that dude can do is if you're running back in his offense, you're going to get yards. Like it doesn't matter who you are. Right.
One thing about him too is he flips guys quickly too. Like remember when he had Raheem Mostert 2 years ago and he had Jeff Wilson Jr. this past year and he shipped him off to Miami, excuse me. And now he's got a lot, he just, it's not a case of whether he's abusing backs. He's just basically like, look, I have this guy, but I have 2 other guys that are just as good as him. So I could trade this guy, get a pick back, and then I could use the guys I want because I'm loaded at running back right now.
Yeah.
It's a smart way to do business if you can do it. And I think that that's pretty much where it's going. So listen, you and I pretty much had said it already. He's probably going to show up.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way that he's going to sit out an entire season or miss game day just because of a contract situation. I just don't see it.
I think it's like $600,000 a week or something like that.
Yeah, it's some kind of weird, weird thing.
Here, man, like get out of here. Just go. Now and here's the thing. Like, this is actually perfect for me because he's just going to sit out camp. Okay. No risk of pulling hamstrings, knees, injuries, crap like that. Good. Great. Saquon doesn't need to be there for training camp. In fact, I prefer he's not there because then you get the other guys all the reps, so they learn the offense really well, and then he just slots right in. It's like
what we always say about OTAs, right? We don't want our stars getting hurt.
Yeah, just
because we're screwed if they do.
Yeah, just stay alive.
Keep working out on your own. Keep doing whatever you got to do on your own. Show up week 1, which we all expect him to do. All right, number 2 is about the Knicks, and it's actually about a lost soul on the Knicks, and that's Evan Fournier. Who had been the subject of trade rumors for what seems like forever, and he had plenty to say about it and not in the most positive light towards the team. Quote, I would be very surprised to be a Knick next year. They pay me $18 million. They have no interest in keeping me. If you want to trade me with a good return, why didn't you use me? I was coming out of a season where I was the 4th best 3-point shooter in the league. Fournier went on to say that he had no relationship with Tom Thibodeau by the end of the season and doesn't believe it would be best for his career if he returns to New York and sit on the bench for another full season. He has an expiring contract for the season, but the Knicks have yet to find a suitable trade. The question on the table is, Maddie, does he have a right to be frustrated with the situation?
I mean, yes, but no. Like, okay, you were the 4th best 3-point shooter, but like anybody who watched the games would never say that about you, right? Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, statistics could say things, theoretical physics. I can prove that an elephant could be held off a cliff with a dandelion, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can have numbers say whatever you want. You weren't good because here's the thing. Thibodeau hates playing young players and loves playing old ones. So if you were good, he would have played you more than Grimes and these other guys, right? Like, he would have done it. So there's obviously something you were doing, and like, relax, dude. You're going to go to another team and the team's probably going to suck. I heard he might go to the Spurs. Have fun. Go away. I never wanted you to begin with. Ever. I never understood it when we did it the first time. I never understood why we kept him. I never understood why we signed him. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It was one of the dumbest things ever. And
okay.
It's not good.
That's fair. The funny thing about this is this expiring contract has been built up so much in regards to trades. And I know that teams definitely want expiring contracts because they don't have to pay the guy after this 1 year that he's left with the team. He has a right to be pissed off. I think he could be useful for a team. Sure. But the thing is, right now, as we're getting so deep into, we're right around the corner from when the team starts showing up for practices again and in the start of the season. Do the Knicks have any intention of, like, is there any rumored deal where he's like, that seems legit right now, where his contract is going to be in a deal? Like, because this is all I've heard is like, oh, well, they have Evan Fournier's expiring contract. And, and I'm like, okay, well, when the hell are they going to just trade it already?
If it'll probably be trade deadline. If I had to guess.
I mean, because I see his point to an extent. It's like a way of him. He's asking for a trade. He's pissed off. And in a way, he's inadvertently asking for a trade, even though he knows he's going to get traded. Yeah. Kind of like, it's like a weird way to ask for a trade when you pretty much know they are trying to move you. But right now, and listen, I'm not killing the Knicks because if I'm a GM, if I'm Leon Rose, I want to make sure I get a good deal out of it. I don't want to just trade a contract to trade a contract. You know what I mean? Like,
now all of a sudden you want to get a good, not you, Leon Rose. Now all of a sudden he wants to get a good deal. 2 fucking 2nd round picks in 8 years for Obi Toppin. And now you want to wait for a good deal? Like, fuck you, man. Just make a fucking trade already. Like, what are you waiting for? It's Evan Fournier. If you're getting 2 seconds for Obi Toppin, what are you going to get for Evan Fournier that's better than that?
5 seconds.
I mean,
2000
in like 2076, we'll all be fucking dead. And
Leon Rose might be dead by the time those picks come to fruition.
Leon Rose will be like posthumously like picking from the grave.
But I see Evan Fournier's frustration, and
course.
I get it, but again, it's like one of those things where like I could see your frustration, but you don't matter on the Knicks right now.
Oh,
So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, okay, you could be pissed all you want, but it's not going to change. Leon Rose is not going to rush to trade you tomorrow because you're pissed off a guy who's out of the rotation on the Knicks right now.
Yeah, make your 18 million, shut your mouth.
All right, number 3, Joel Embiid most likely will. What's that?
Shut up and drill. I'm kidding. I don't really mean that.
Joel Embiid most likely will be back with the Sixers next season, and while he would love to win a championship in Philly, he did leave the door open that it could be with another team. I just want to win a championship. I don't know where that's going to be, whether that's in Philly or anywhere else. I just want to have a chance to accomplish that. It'll most likely be with a different running mate, as James Harden is expected to be traded before the season starts after he opted in and asked for the trade. Maddie, on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a boner does the Knicks fan have after hearing this from Embiid?
I mean, which Knick fan? Somebody like me, it's at a 1. Somebody like the Bing Bong idiots in the street celebrating a 1 fucking playoff win, they're at like a 14. They're at the point where they got to go to the hospital because the Viagra's been active for over 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like they're ready to go. Look, he's not coming here, man. Now, listen, I will say this. This is going to be an interesting one, right? Because for the first time ever, when we're actually having these conversations, the Knicks actually have a shit ton of assets. And I don't mean like players, but draft capital over the next, say, I think 6-7 years, something like that. They have a ton of extra first and second round picks that they can put in a package with somebody like RJ Barrett or quickly if they re-sign him or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So like they do have a package that could be done. But if you're the 76ers, why would you ever trade him to New York no matter what the package is? Why would you do that? So he could just whoop your ass for the next 5 years? Like, get out of here, man. It's not happening.
And that's the thing about like Knicks fans in general kind of crack me up because they just think it's going to happen, right? Because of exactly what you said, the assets.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have tons of draft picks, they have young players and everything. But you're forgetting that the Sixers play in the same division. So they're not this. There's no way the Sixers are going to trade him within the division unless, honestly, you trade them Jalen Brunson. And that's never going to happen.
The only way he gets traded to the Knicks in the division if Joel Embiid says, I only want to go to the Knicks.
Yeah.
And like, I will not go like what Dame Lillard is doing with the Heat, right? Where he says, if I get traded somewhere else, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
If he does that, then yeah, okay, fine. But he's not going to do that because he can go to a ton of other places and win. In fact, he'd have a better shot at winning almost any other place in New York because no one's ever going to win in New York.
And right now it looks like I don't get the vibe he wants out of Philly as bad as they're making it out to be, at least not yet. But it really depends on how they build the team around him moving forward. And it doesn't look like Harden is going to be there, obviously. But I just can't, I don't know. Like I'm saying not yet. I'm not saying like tomorrow he's going to demand a trade out of Philadelphia.
Oh,
but you get the sense that by next year, if things haven't changed, then the likelihood of him asking for a trade is going to go up. I think it's definitely going to go up.
Indeed.
And, and it's not, the thing is, like you said, unless he says he goes to the Knicks, other than that, though, there's a lot of other teams he'll want to go to. He'll definitely want to go to other teams, maybe out west, because those teams have a better shot of winning. I don't think he'll go to a team like Boston or Milwaukee or anything like that. But I just think right now it's just like Knicks fans have to like temper their expectations because they hear stuff like this and then we automatically jump to the conclusion of, yep, he's coming. And all it's going to take is Evan Fournier's expiring contract and 7 second-round picks. So it's like we just have to like temper. He's just, temper the expectations at this point, whether they like it or not. But there's no, if he's coming here, it's not going to be this year. It's definitely not going to be this year or maybe even next year. But it eventually depends on how Daryl Morey rounds out the roster around him. That's pretty much it.
It's not going to be every year, Craig. Ever.
All right, number 4, with the Mets most likely selling before the August 1st trade deadline, speculation started to arise on whether the team would consider trade offers for Pete Alonso. The Mets have squashed the rumors almost immediately, saying they have no intention of trading Alonso at all. Alonso is suffering through a brutal season, and while he has 26 homers, he's hitting .211 and was mired in a 2-for-29 slump up until this weekend. He will be a free agent after the 24-25 season and is expected to land a huge contract extension. How soon should the Mets make a decision on Pete Alonso's future so they don't fall into the same trap the Angels did with Shohei Ohtani?
He has 2 years left. So this year and next year, or this year?
This year. No, this year and next year.
So only this year and next year.
Yeah.
Then trade him now. If you're not going to re-sign him, If you think he's going to walk in free agency, you trade him now. Because like, I understand he's having a bad year. Like that's irrelevant though, right? Like to me, it's you have a year and a half left of control. And if you trade him to a contender, who knows what happens? He sparks. He goes on one of those home run tears. Like the guy's a good hitter. Like say what you want. Like he's going through a slump and that happens. But the guy's a good hitter. He can hit. Now maybe he's a better home run hitter than an average hitter. It doesn't matter. He can still hit in Major League Baseball. So he's going to go somewhere and be good. But if you're going to re-sign him, then re-sign him now. It doesn't make any sense to wait and have hit the open market, and then you have to bid against yourself. Sign him now. And if you don't want to sign him now, trade him now because it's going to be the Ohtani thing again, right? Oh, I only have him for 2 months. Well, then you're getting, a mid-level prospect and a relief pitcher. Like that's it.
Yeah, I think the Mets have to make a decision on how they feel about Alonso moving forward this offseason. This is the offseason. You have to get a deal done. You can't wait. You can't wait to the start of the season. You don't want this dragging out all the way through spring training, right? Because then it's going to be a hot mess. And it's just going to be, that's the only thing that people are going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Is that Alonso's playing on, another arbitration eligible deal, and that's fine and everything. I mean, I think that Alonso will probably stay a Met. However, you don't want to be in the situation the Angels are in right now, because now the Angels are pretty much, their backs are to the wall. The likelihood of them bringing back Ohtani, it's possible, but that they're going to, I don't want to say 0% because Artie Moreno's the type of guy that'll give him like a $600 million deal to get him to stay, and he'll blow up his own payroll just to do it. The thing is, so that's why I say it's not a 0% chance, although you don't want to be in their situation. This is like hell right now for the Angels organization and the fan base, because it's looking like more and more he's not going to be back. And then the worst case, he's going to stay on the West Coast and go to like the Dodgers, or go, God forbid he goes to a team like Houston or maybe even Seattle. But it's clear as day that the Mets have to make a decision on Pete Alonso by this offseason. If you don't want to re-sign the guy, then you got to trade him. You got to trade him before the season starts. And you got to get you got to get prospects or whatever it is you can get.
Right.
But right now, I would just say, don't fall into that decision, because I'm telling you, when the season starts, this is going to be a hot mess of a distraction all season long, and it's not what you want. All right, number 5. It was a rough road
Craig,
trip.
It's a pretty good rule. Real quick, I just want a little life lesson. It's a really good life lesson to never be in any position that the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim are in.
Yeah.
They're never in a good position ever.
Yeah.
It's the worst run organization with money. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's like, you probably should have had that deal with Ohtani locked up before this season, obviously. I mean, I don't understand why they dragged that out as long as they did. They probably figured, it's a slam dunk and the team sucks again. After Trout got hurt and everything, he's not going to want to stay with them unless he gets, just like I said, a ridiculous contract offer from the Angels.
That's crazy.
So number 5, it was a rough road trip for the Yankees after they dropped 2 of 3 to the Rockies and were swept by the Angels at Anaheim. Josh Donaldson's tenure with the Yankees could be over after he was placed on the IL with a groin injury. And after getting shelled in his 3rd start since coming off the IL, Carlos Rodon blew kisses to the Yankee fans in attendance that were booing him off the field. Rodon attributed his actions towards frustration with his start. There is some good news, though, in that Aaron Judge is expected to make his return next week at Yankee Stadium against the Mets. So, Matt, is Rodon already starting to show a thin skin while playing in New York?
No, I actually kind of like it. Right? I think thin skin is like giving the finger, right? Like
Jack McDowell?
I think thin skin is like that's like being like a heel, right? Like that to me is more like wrestling heel, right? Like you're blowing kisses at people booing you, right? Like I feel like you got to have a little thick skin to
ravishing Rick Rude. He ain't.
Yeah. Well, no, he's not that. But you know what I mean, right? Like it doesn't seem thin skinned. It seems like wrestling heel. And to be a wrestling heel, you got to have thick skin, right? Like because everyone's coming at you. So I don't think it is thin skinned. I mean, I think he was just frustrated and he just decided to do a little something. It doesn't really bother me either way.
I wouldn't say he's thin-skinned yet, obviously, because he's the first year of what is it, 7-year deal with the Yankees?
Sure, that sounds right. That's about
right.
You.
So it's the first couple of months of a 7-year contract. So I think it's way too early to tell if he's really that thin-skinned, right? However, it's a bad look either way you slice it. It's just not a good look that basically you get shelled and then and look, you got to be able to take it. And maybe he will. And maybe this will all be water under the bridge if he pitches better as the season goes on. But he's had 3 starts. He had one okay one, but that one's a pass because basically he was his first start coming off of a back injury. And now he's got 2 starts where he really wasn't very good. Yeah. So this contract is no way in hell labeled a bust of any kind yet because it's way too early to label it that way. But the fact is like it's a bad look for a guy who missed half of the season after signing a 7-year, $162 million deal and basically has pitched like shit.
Yeah.
So
Craig, it's going to be a terrible contract. You could just bank on that shit right now. When was the last time? And this is Yankees, Mets. This is all New York teams.
Oh yeah.
When was the last time a guy started a huge contract shitty and turned that bitch around? Like it's never happened. I can't think of any. Can you?
Not off the top of my head. Maybe. Well, no. Like it's too early for me to tell. Like because I'd have to go back, but I can't think of any big contract that like either team has signed pitcher wise or even player wise,
right?
Where it's gone off to a really brutal start and then it's just.
Right, like Cole didn't get off to a brutal start; he got to a great start, and he's been excellent ever since. Right, like it's not like that. Like even Giancarlo Stanton has been pretty much the same.
Right,
he's had ups and downs where he's been really good for like a couple weeks, especially in the playoffs. But like he's been pretty much the same since he got here. So I don't remember the last time, like going all the way back to Carl Pavano, where the thing starts out terrible, and then you turn it around.
Yeah.
Not going to happen, y'all. It's going to be a terrible contract, and hopefully it'll just be one of those things where he's just hurt all the time, and so it's like he's just like, all right, my back's out, okay, I can't pitch again, all right, and then he's just money on the thing, and he doesn't hurt us.
Yeah, I mean, but again, right now, 3 starts in. I mean, like I said, don't want to say he's thin-skinned, not yet. We have to see how the rest of the season plays out and how this plays further, but. It was just a terrible look from a team, from like a fan base that kind of needs something right now with the rotation because they've outside of Cole and I'd say Herman's pitched really well the last few starts. Severino struggled a lot. Rodon now struggling. So, but
Severino pitched well against the Royals today. So
this is the get back series, right, man?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kiss my ass, people who's like, oh, big win for the Yankees. Why don't you shove it? Hey, beating the Royals. You don't get to fucking talk. Shut up.
Can't handle Bobby Witt Jr.?
No, that's brutal.
All right, finally, number 6. As we were mentioning the Mets before, they are currently 7 games out of the final wild card spot. Will most likely sell. Names being floated around are like pretty much guys on 1-year deals: Tommy Pham, Mark Canha, David Robertson, Adam Ottavino. But another name that has started to generate some interest is lefty Jose Quintana, who made his debut this past Thursday against the White Sox after being out for most of the season with a tumor on his rib. Quintana's first start was decent, going 5 innings and only allowing 2 runs. He still has 1 more year left on his deal that would pay him $13 million in 2024. So, Maddie, should the Mets entertain offers for Quintana or keep him in the rotation for next season?
I mean, here's the thing. If you're selling, then sell. Don't sell some and not the others. It's a 1-year contract. It's not like he's going to be on your team for 7 years, because if you can get something back for him, you get something back for him. He's only going to be on the team next year. And if you fall out of it next year, you're just going to trade him next year before the trade deadline anyway. Depending on what you can get for him, obviously don't give him away. They got a year of control on a decent pitcher. But if you're going to sell.
I'm going to say no.
And I'm not talking about I'm not saying young players, but like that guy, yeah, sell him. You can because you can get somebody to replace him.
Yeah.
It's not like you're sending the catcher away. It's not like you're sending Lindor away. I'm not talking about guys like that. I'm talking about guys like periphery guys.
Well, one thing about Quintana's value is he's a lefty, and teams always want lefty starters.
Yeah.
And he's, since last year when he pitched with St. Louis, when he was with Pittsburgh, then got traded to St. Louis, he's pitched really well. His first start, I thought he pitched decent. The Mets just gave him no run support. But next year, I would probably prefer to keep him because there's one less thing I have to shop for in the offseason. You're going to go into rotation next year, most likely, because I don't think they're going to trade Scherzer. I don't think they're trading Verlander. So you're going to have Scherzer, Verlander, Senga, and Quintana. And then you add a 5th starter at the end of the year because Carrasco won't be back. I don't think this team values David Peterson very much. So they'll be in the market for a 5th starter. I don't see a situation where the Mets are going to add two starters next year, and I think they're going to focus a lot of their attention on the bullpen. And I think they'll bring up their, I think guys like Ronnie Mauricio and Mark Vientos will have full-time roles next year because they'll be out from Vogelback. They'll be out from all these other, guys like Canna, guys who Pham will probably won't be back next year. But I think just going into next season with 4/5 of a starting rotation already, I'd rather do that. But I'm also a firm believer, like the way Joe Douglas does things, that if people call you, you listen.
Yeah.
And the worst case scenario is you get a deal. You're like, holy shit, I didn't realize I was going to get him. So I'll take it. So I wouldn't do it unless you get an impressive offer for him. I probably wouldn't do it because I'd rather have him already in my rotation for next season. All right. New York sports is pretty much done. So we're going to take it's rough. It is absolutely rough right now, especially for baseball. Baseball's crushing us right now.
Well, that's the problem. So once football starts, because both football teams are supposed to be good to decent to good. So like that should be at least fun until they start losing games, and then we'll be back to reality. But at least the preseason will be fun.
And then we'll be suffering in silence for like most of the season.
I very rarely suffer in silence, Craig.
All right. So before we get to, we got to do. We'll do the first 5 of in case you missed. In case you missed it too. So it's kind of like our intermission, like we always do. So, Maddie, you want to hit the music or?
Hold on 1 second, because I got the thing and then the thing. All right, and
how about that? One of in case you missed it, we're going to do the first 5 topics. We have 9 total today. The remaining 4 will be at the very end of the show. So as we always say on the show, 5 topics, all opinions vary, all opinions legal, all opinions matter. Maddie, are you ready?
Oh! Couldn't wait, Hacksaw.
All right. As we said before, Saquon Barkley wasn't the only running back that was unable to agree on a contract extension with their current club. Josh Jacobs and Tony Pollard saw the 4 p.m. deadline pass without a new deal, which raised some flags with other running backs in the league. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and Austin Eckler all took to Twitter to voice their frustrations about how teams don't want to pay running backs, with Henry saying they should eliminate the position altogether. Boomer Esiason, not a running back, obviously, even went as far as to accuse NFL owners of colluding against running backs. Maddie, has the running back position become the most underappreciated in the NFL?
I mean, probably, but like, sorry, man, that's just what it is. But you can't say that collusion exists when guys are there's a couple guys making $16 million a year at running back. I'm sorry. Like, how much do you want to pay these guys? Because here's the thing. Christian McCaffrey makes like $16 million a year, and that dude still misses games every year because he's hurt.
That's only a matter of time before Derrick Henry just wears down altogether.
How many times does Justin Jefferson miss games? How many times does the major wide receivers miss games? Like, they do miss games sometimes, but it's not as much as the running backs do, man. I'm sorry, it's just not. And that's the wear and tear. What you'd be better off doing, Craig, if you were a running back, is you'd be better off finding like a guy who you're like really good friends with, right? And going into the GM and being like, pay us each $10 million and we'll split the carries.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and I know it sounds crazy, but like, that's essentially what's happening. And again, it's not that there's collusion. The owners don't have the power to do this shit. This isn't the owners. This is football coaches figuring out that the running back position can be approximated in many different ways, and that you can rotate guys out and in and out and in and out. And unless you have one of the top 5 spectacular guys, you can approximate their value with a couple different guys in a good offensive line. So
offensive coordinators scheme now with not having running backs anymore, and it's a lot of jet sweeps, or it's a lot of stuff to the tight end, or screen passes to running backs. But the days of ground and pound to me are pretty much over. The only team that really runs a ground and pound offense now on a regular basis are the Baltimore Ravens. Because not only do they have Lamar Jackson, but they also have 3 other running backs. They use like J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and it's the other kid. I forgot his name.
I mean, Tennessee, right? I would put
Tennessee uses Derrick Henry as more. Yeah, they're probably a workhorse. So I'd include them. But if you see nowadays, man, every team has like 2 or 3 backs. They're gonna just split carries with. Green Bay with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You have, the Lions with, David Montgomery and the kid they drafted this year in the first round, and the Falcons with Bijan Robinson and the other kid they drafted last year. Nobody is really there. The days of those workhorse backs like Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders are over. They're gone. Yep. And coordinators have just figured out a way to scheme up to lessen the load for these guys and not make them an integral part of the offense, but it also pisses these guys off that they're not the integral part of the offense. So they're just going to have to deal with it. There's no way their owners are colluding in the league. It's just not possible. But
the owners wouldn't have the intelligence to collude on something like this. And then this is coaches and GMs figuring shit out. That's all it is.
And the funny thing is, Eckler's a guy that wants a contract. So I don't understand why he, I mean, I get why he's complaining, but it's like,
I mean, listen, the problem with running backs is they're usually paid for they get paid for what they should have done instead of what they did, and it doesn't always work like that for other people. Number 2, Dolphins receiver Tyreek Hill is making a bold prediction for himself this season on his own podcast. It needed to be said. Hill said, "I will break 2,000 yards next year, bro. 2,000 yards in another Super Bowl. We getting that. Believe that." He'll finish. Sorry for how white that was. He'll finish last season with 1,710 yards in his first year with Miami, but the Dolphins also had Jalen Waddle, who finished with over 1,300 yards receiving. Calvin Johnson holds a single-season receiving record with 1,964 yards back in 2012. Can Hill break 2,000 yards?
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, number one, you have Jalen Waddle who's going to cut into your yardage regardless. Number 2, we don't even know if Tua is going to make it through a full season, and if Tua doesn't make it and he misses time, that's going to automatically hurt Hill's yardage in general. And isn't Hill being? But
isn't Mike White the backup?
Mike White's the backup right now.
They have a better backup than they did.
Yeah, last year they had Teddy Bridgewater and he got hurt.
Yeah.
But the thing is isn't Hill also indicted on like an assault charge or something like that?
Yeah, he just smacked a guy in the face.
Yeah. So
it was Miami. That's nothing. That's
look,
Tuesday.
When Tyreek Hill gets the ball in his hands, you know he's a dynamic receiver. He's fast. He's got the breakaway speed. He's very good with the yards after the catch. I just think that 2,000. I mean, I give him credit for being high and mighty on himself. I can't see him breaking Megatron's record at all. But is it possible? Of course. But I think there's too many factors that have to play into his situation for it to happen. As for the other thing, I do not see the Dolphins winning a Super Bowl anytime soon. I just don't think that they're good enough.
I mean, here's how I think. Any team can go on a run, right? Like the 9-7 Giants twice went on runs.
Sure.
It's like when you get hot at the right time. They have the players to do it, and they think because Vic Fangio is now the defensive coordinator, they're going to be much, much better.
All right, number 3, free agent wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins has agreed to a 2-year deal with the Tennessee Titans that could be worth up to $32 million. Hopkins is 31 years old and has missed 15 games over the last 2 seasons due to multiple injuries and a suspension. Back in May, Hopkins was looking for a team with great management and a QB who loves the game. Needless to say, some were surprised and believe it was more financially driven that Hopkins joined the Titans, a team many expect to take a step back in 2023. Matty, are you good with Hopkins following the money to Tennessee?
I mean, look, it can't only be about the money, right? Like, it just can't be. Like, he's not that stupid. Right? It can't just be only about the money because he would have gone to some other teams. I think if Hopkins is healthy and with a guy like with having oh my God, the running back, the giant dude, Derrick Henry, thank you. With having that guy, like if Hopkins is healthy, like that's a great weapon for them to have, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get a little bit of a diversified offense in Tennessee with Hopkins there. Maybe. I doubt it.
I don't have a problem with him taking the money because, listen, you take the best offer that comes to your table. And if you're going to get $32 million or whatever, or the deal could be up to $32 million, and you're not getting that type of offer from any other team, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Because you should take the money. Now, again, it's about playing in Tennessee, which means Ryan Tannehill is your quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is not exactly a top 10 quarterback in this league. And again, Hopkins is also 31 years old as a wide receiver, number 1. He's missed some time, so there's that as well. That being said, I don't have an issue with him taking the money. It's more or less surprising because I always thought that he wanted to go to a team that was really good. The Patriots were really rumored for a while. The Bills were rumored for a while. So I thought he would choose those teams over a team like Tennessee, who I don't think is going to be that good this year, basically with another year of Tannehill, and if you're running Derrick Henry into the ground again, and none of their other receivers are very good. But again, if that's the best offer you're going to get and you want to go there, I've got no issue with it whatsoever.
Number 4, Mariners outfielder Jared Kelenich's frustrating season took a turn for the worse as he placed on the IL after fracturing his left foot kicking a water cooler during a game Wednesday night against the Twins. The injury does not require surgery, but he could miss the rest of the regular season. It's been a struggle for Kalenic since being called in Mariners 2 years ago. And while he got off to a great start this season with 7 homers in April, since May 1st, he's batting .230 with only 4 homers and strikes out an alarming 34% rate. Seeing that this is clearly not working out for Kalenic in Seattle, it's time for the Mariners to give him a fresh start somewhere else.
Yeah, I think so. He was one of the top prospects. That was like a number 5 prospect overall, and killing the ball in AAA. But he just comes to the major leagues, and all he does is really strike out, and he gets, he doesn't really get on base nearly enough. I think there was also some issues off the field with him with the Mariners. Like I remember there was like a period of time where he scrubbed all the Mariners shit off his Instagram page and everything. He was pissed off at them or something like that. But he just really hasn't clicked there. Like I just don't think he's clicked there at all. And at this point, you're better off seeing if you can trade him to another team to see if they can get something out of him, because you've given him chances. He's been demoted to the minors multiple times, and he just hasn't been able to come back and be a better hitter. It's not even about, the whole point of sending him down is to fix what's ailing him. And he seems to fix it in AAA. And then when he gets called up, it's kind of the same shit, because I guess teams just have a good scouting report on him and they know what he likes to chase at. And the strikeouts are a big deal. So I think at this point, if it's not working for him in Seattle, I think you got to try to find a place for him to go somewhere else. Maybe to like a bad team to see if he can kind of gain some confidence back or whatever.
I think he's a 4A player. I think at this point we know how many guys have played this many years and all of a sudden they just become really, really good, right? Like it doesn't really happen. Guys who are good usually are good, right? Yeah. And I don't mean like they have to be Mike Trout from the beginning, but they're usually good without any huge drop-offs. Sure. And that's after the first year. The first year can be up and down and crazy. But like we usually know within the first couple of years if you're going to be good or not. And there's just a chance that this guy's a 4A player. That's all. And
it's just going to be the reason why I said that is because it could be like one of those situations. He goes to another team, does really well, and then everybody goes, oh, the Mariners should have kept him, But I think you can only give a guy so much rope to hang himself. Eventually, like you got to cut your losses if the guy's not working out for your team. All right, number 5, Yahoo Sports is reporting that while James Harden is still intent on being traded to the Clippers, he will report to Sixers training camp if the process drags out when teams report in September and with Media Day on October 2nd. Daryl Morey is on record as saying he will not take a below-average deal just to get Harden to where he wants to go. Harden's representatives believe it's only a matter of when, not if, he gets traded. Maddie, is Morey making the right decision to wait it out to get what he ultimately wants?
I mean, sure, but what are you going to get? What are you going to get? Where does he want to go? The Suns?
He wants to go to the Clippers.
Clippers. What the fuck did the Clippers have to trade at this point? Like honestly, what did the Clippers have to trade at this point? First round picks in like 2032? Didn't they trade them all for Paul George? For playoff?
Well, most of those teams have traded their first round picks for the last like 5 or 6 years.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. So like, what do you expect to get? Well, seriously, what do you expect to get? It's also like, Harden isn't worth anything at this point. Like we can keep pretending, Craig. We can keep pretending that James Harden is really good still. Like we can keep pretending. And yeah, he'll have games here and there. He had one in the playoffs that was really good, but like he's not that good anymore. Well, get what you can get and get him off the damn team. Because the worst thing that can happen is he shows up as fat James Harden like he did with Brooklyn, where he went to the strip club every night eating wings.
I mean, the thing is, this is what he wants to be. He just wants to be a guy who gets the ball and shoots threes, right? That's pretty much what he wants to be. He doesn't want to be, like we've already said this before about him, he has no leadership qualities whatsoever. He doesn't want to be a leader of a team. He just wants to hang back. Like with the Clippers, he's going to want to do the same thing he did in Brooklyn, and that is he's going to want to let Kawhi Leonard and Paul George handle the heavy workload, and he'll just stand by the three-point line and just shoot, because that's all he really wants to do. Morey can hold out for as long as he wants, but I'm not even sure what's on the Clippers roster anymore to really see what they can get outside of Terrence Mann and maybe like some draft picks or something like that. But at this point, it's like, I just don't, unless there are other teams involved with Harden, which it doesn't look like there are, you're basically going to be trading him for a below market deal. And eventually you're not going to want this to be a distraction. You just want to get this guy off your team at this point, because it's obvious he doesn't want to be in Philadelphia. It's obvious he doesn't like Daryl Morey. It's obvious he's using some lame-ass excuse for his reason why he's so upset. at the Sixers organization and everything. So in my opinion, it's just cut your losses at this point and just move on. But I mean, at the same time, the reason why he's holding out is because he wants to make sure he gets a good enough deal that pleases Joel Embiid, because he doesn't want to lose him next year, which could be a possibility.
Indeed.
All right, so round one of In Case You Missed It has ended. We have the final four shortly, but before we get into that, we have, back after a brief hiatus, is the Off the Grid story for this week.
Lovely.
You seem excited, Matty.
Oh, I always am.
So
some random ass people doing random ass shit. Let's go.
So today's story is about death, and it's about just one thing about these stories is they're always tough to explain because you never think it actually happens, and then it does. So, Maddie, are you ready?
Always.
Okay. So here is the Off the Grid story for this week's episode of The Polar Opposites. Maddie, it's never easy to mourn the dead, but for two daughters on Long Island, their grief turned into anger at the funeral home that was presiding over their father's burial. Stacy Holtzman and Megan Zahner wanted to say goodbye to their father one last time before the burial. And when the coffin was open, the man inside was not their father. They claimed that they told the funeral home, but their concerns were dismissed. However, it turns out that it was the fault of the funeral home in South Carolina that transported the wrong body in the father's favorite t-shirt. The Star of David Funeral Home on Long Island put out a generic statement saying they will review all protocols but will not reimburse the daughters for their expenses, and the daughters will now have to plan and pay for a second service, but not before they sue both funeral homes for $60 million with the help of their attorney, and this is not a typo. The guy's name is Phil Rizzuto. Is there anything worse that screams bad business for a funeral parlor than a mix-up of dead bodies?
I mean, you got to blame the home that shipped him, right? Like, I mean, the other one doesn't necessarily know what he looks like per se, and maybe it looks enough like him. You got to blame that. But here's the other thing. Just give him the money back. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Or don't give them the money back, but just say, like, we'll redo the service for free, right? Like, we'll just do it as an expense or whatever. Like, you're really gonna, like, you don't think that somebody who went through this is not gonna sue you and not gonna have like a really good case? Now, listen, admittedly, $60 million is bonkers. Get the fuck out of here with that nonsense.
That's a lot of pain and suffering, right, man?
I mean, like, get out of here. Come on. If you'd have come at me with $5 million, I'd be like, all right, I could see that. $5 million's a lot, but it's still. But
you know that the daughters were probably like, maybe our father was a prick, but we can sell it as like, oh my God, this is like the worst case scenario like of all time, and like we can easily just like.
I just have a problem with the funeral home. Like when they come in and say, listen, that's not our father, immediately they should be like, oh my God, it's not. I totally thought it was, or what, you know what I mean? Like, at least play dumb, like do something. It's dumb. Like, look, I am not a pro customer person. I work in customer service. The customer is very rarely right, ever. If ever, they are never, ever right, because customers are idiots. They're irrational fucking idiots. Okay. But here's the thing. In certain businesses, you got to be a little bit better at it than in others. Okay. Because I work at a grocery store. It doesn't really matter if I tell somebody to fuck off, because they're just not going to come back. But like when somebody's grieving the death of their family and the person in the coffin isn't their father, you might want to just like, say, you know what, we'll cover the next one.
Yeah, but it's like, you don't even say like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But when we're sorry that's not your dad.
Sorry, that's not on us.
Yeah, we're sorry it's not your dad, but it's not my fault. I mean, it's just like
it's over $6,000 for the coffin,
and then you got to pay for it. They're going to make them pay for another service.
Yeah, like I mean that's some bullshit right there. Like that's bullshit right there.
So do you have that sound clip I had for you before?
Oh, yeah. I got it.
So
right
now just imagine that they don't open the coffin, right? And they're at the funeral and they're doing like, the priest is doing the thing. It could sound something like this.
Friends, I was thinking as we drove up here in those long Cadillacs, how serious this is. Death is serious. You got to prepare to die. This boy here loved gold. We stripped him of all that gold. That's why we got this beautiful sermon today. Yes, amen. He was prepared to die. Lord, We ask you to look down on this young soul known on earth as Junebug Spade.
Junebug Spade? Ain't this Lester Wilson's funeral?
No, ma'am. Lester Wilson was at 9 o'clock.
Oh, hell. Come on, let's get out of here.
Hold on 1 second. No, hold on. Can I get an amen?
Somebody I don't even know. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Can I get an amen?
So good. And if you've never seen the video that they start taking the flowers off the coffin and like taking the wreaths and shit, it's hysterical. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. I love that dude, man. I love him.
It's like, ain't this? It's like Junebug Spade. But it's like, imagine if they didn't open the coffin and they didn't say, "Okay, I want to say goodbye to my dad one more time before we do the burial." And they're like, "Wait, this guy's ain't my dad. What the hell's up with this?"
The funeral home's like, "Damn it, we missed the golden opportunity there."
No, they were like sitting there going, "Shit, we were so close. We didn't think they were going to ask for a burial." The mortician was probably shitting in his pants when they opened that coffin, and they knew there wasn't going to be the guy's father, the girl's father.
Just brutal. Just intense.
The thing is, it's bad enough to mourn the loss of a loved one. It's even worse when you're mourning the loss of a loved one that's not in the coffin, that you're the relative of that's in the coffin.
All right, we got a couple quick things to do before we get to the last. In case you miss it, real quick, these are like outside, they're sports, but they're like nonsense stuff. We love coach speak on this podcast, right? If you don't know that, you will learn that in the NFL season. We love coach speak because what I like to do is do the coach speak to English dictionary, like the translation from coach speak to actual speak. And Robert Saleh has been right up the can of Zach Wilson over the last couple of days. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. You like, never in the history of ever has a backup quarterback gotten so much shine as this guy has gotten from Saleh over the last couple of days. And the thing I love too is that, like, apparently, Craig, when you learn a new offense, no matter how many years you've been in the league, it's like you're a rookie all over again. So I guess Daniel Jones was a rookie last year. So we're good with that going forward. This is what Saleh had to say. He's learning everything. So he's back to being a rookie almost. But I thought he had a really nice day. Made some throws. He's getting really comfortable in the pocket. Stepped up, showing good presence in there. Not afraid to use his athleticism in the pocket to move during practice. So he's doing a really nice job. I only expect him to get better and better. Then talking about like watching Aaron Rodgers and how that's going to help him become this great quarterback and all that stuff. Here's the thing, guys. Zach Wilson can't complete a 5-yard out on a consistent basis. So I don't give a fuck about anything else until he can do that on a regular basis in a game. I don't care about anything else. That statement, though, is this guy has no trade.
Saleh, listen, I love Saleh, but Saleh is very like, he's a fluff. Like, he's a fluffer.
That's
like,
crazy.
Right? That's pretty much what he does. Like, he just like really like overhypes. And again, it goes back to what we've always said about looking too deep into a couple of practices, right? The Jets literally just got to practice. So the first day of practice was not the greatest. And the fucking reporters are doing the same shit. They're always like, "Oh, today was a really sloppy day." They just got there.
Give it a minute.
They just fucking got there. And like the writers are all writing the same shit. "Oh, today was a really sloppy day for the Jets offense. It was just really brutal." They literally just fucking got there.
That's why I don't pay attention the first week of camp. It's not.
It's like, I will never listen. We know how bad Zach was last year. You can't defend the indefensible, right? Now, at the end of the preseason, if I think I see that he's capable of being the backup to Aaron Rodgers, fine. That's all he is. But the thing is, it's like you're already over inflating this guy after 3 practices. 4 practices, no pads. Okay.
But here's my favorite part about this, Craig. If you actually read that, he's not really saying anything great. It just sounds right. It just sounds. He says really nice.
Yeah.
He's making some throws, showing good presence.
It's
what I mean?
It's like the safe word. Really, it's a safe word, right?
Exactly. But like what he's doing with this statement is, like, people don't understand. Like, we see the broad picture, right, Craig? We see everything here on the Polar Opposite Show. And what he's doing here is he's trying to increase the value of Zach Wilson, a player who has zero value. He is trying to trick another team into thinking that guy has value so they can trade him if they think he's not very good.
So It's funny you mention that, right? Because this week the Jets traded Denzel Mims finally. They traded him to Detroit.
Right.
And they got back a conditional 6th-round pick, but they had to trade a 7th-round pick. And this is what I mean about Jet fans sometimes. Every time Joe Douglas makes a trade, Jet fans are like, oh my God, he totally this is Trader Joe all over again. And I was telling like my wife's cousin, I said, he had to trade a 7th-round pick and Denzel Mims to get a 6th-round pick. That's not a fleecing. That's not a fleecing. Like what are you freaking Jet fans talking about?
Didn't he also draft Denzel Mims?
He drafted Denzel Mims the first year that he was here. But the thing about Mims was, as weird as this sounds, is that when he was drafted, he was more, I guess, I mean, Jesus, his offense was so bad, but apparently he fit better in Adam Gase's offense than in Mike LaFleur's because he's not like I don't know. Either way, I didn't really care.
Okay.
The fact is like he's off the team, and Jet fans are trying to spin this as like, oh my God, this is a great trade by Joe Douglas. A 6th-round pick?
Yeah, get out of here.
I mean, are you kidding me? So Salah's very big into doing that stuff. Like, I remember I was listening to a Jets podcast one time with Connor Hughes, and Connor Hughes goes, like, when they talk about injuries, right? And they always say, oh yeah, so-and-so hurt his elbow and he's day to day, right? Salah was very big on saying that. Like, even though you saw the guy being wheeled off in a cart,
right,
Salah would tell you he's day to day. And Connor Hughes one time goes, listen, I love Salah, but he's way too optimistic. These guys could have their limbs literally hanging off, and Salah will tell you he's day to day. Because
he's sipping up the body bag. He's day to day.
So like he is very he's a bit of a fluff piece at times. Like he wants to sell you on like all the positives. I take nothing, literally nothing, out of 3 days of practice with no pads.
No,
Zach Wilson's going to probably get the majority of the reps in preseason. And if I think he's doing well in preseason, and again, you have to temper that too, right? Because it's a lot of guys fighting for jobs. So half these guys may not even make the team. So
Aaron Rodgers should play a little bit in the preseason because he's on.
I think he'll play a little bit. He's not going to play a lot.
Oh no.
I expect if he's going to play at all, he'll play either
second game because the second game's like
no. I think he's going to play the Tampa game at home because I think that's where they're going to want to play him is at home.
First game?
No, it's the third game because they have the Hall of Fame game, then they go to Carolina, and then they play Tampa, and then they close against the Giants.
Okay.
And the fourth game is always the game where it's just a bunch of UDFAs trying to fight.
There's only 3.
Yeah, but they play the Hall of Fame game this year, so it's 4.
So the Jets have 4, right?
Okay. Yeah, so that's why they reported so early.
Right.
But again, Salah's always really been like that. That's kind of his MO. He always wants to give you the positives of everything, and he just doesn't want to tell you like, listen, Zach was terrible last year. Like, I mean, I had a ringside seat to it. So it's like, it's just he doesn't. Great if
coaches talk like that, wouldn't it? This guy sucks.
Yeah, it's like
Wouldn't it be great if he came out? Guys, did you watch that game today? He was ass.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was like it's like that's just what he is, though. He's way too optimistic. I love him. I love his coaching style and everything. I just think he's way too optimistic and he's way too into the whole. Yeah, he's really great. He's really great and everything. Like he would talk up every UDFA as they should have been a first-round pick. That's just kind of how he is sometimes.
All right, real quick, and then we'll get to the last of the in case you missed it, because this story made me giggle, and I love when this stuff happens. So
Larry Nassar getting stabbed like it did last week.
That's so wonderful. Just take another second. Okay.
I should have just had you get an audio of just like a stabbing motion while you're telling the whole story.
Yeah, some more of that would be terrible. So I love the fake accounts on Twitter, right? Like Adam Schefter or NBA Central instead of NBA Central. You know what I mean? Like they change one letter, make it look exactly the same.
And they pay Elon Musk $8 for the blue check, and then they're legit.
Exactly. And I love when real people, like me getting fooled by it is one thing, but players and GMs and owners and stuff like that getting fooled by it is another. So NBA Sentinel really sent out this tweet. Kevin Garnett calls out Draymond Green. This is the quote. Draymond punching JP is like a senior punching a freshman who's half his size and then walks around talking himself up as if he's like that. Come try me, Dre. Okay. That's via @showbasketball, right? Which is another fake Twitter account, right? That's their fake aggregator or whatever. So of course Draymond thinks it's real. Draymond thinks it's real. And here's the best part about this, Craig. Because Draymond thinks it's real, Draymond reveals to us a story that we didn't know about.
Right. Oh, about Jordan Poole.
No.
Was it about Jordan Poole?
G.
Okay.
So he responds thinking that Kevin Garnett said this about him, which he didn't because it's not real. So this is Draymond's response, quote tweeting this tweet. I tried you when I was a rookie, KG, and you started talking to yourself like I wasn't talking to you. What's that like? The freshman picking on the senior citizen that's double his size. So Draymond just admitted that like there was a game his rookie year where he went at KG and KG just sort of like went into a shell,
right?
According to Draymond. So then Kevin Garnett comes back and just goes, that's a fake tweet. Quote, NBA Sentinel. See what at Elon Musk. See what the fuck is happening. Fix it. Great stuff. I love it because here's the best part about these fake sites, Craig. The best part about these fake sites is their fake quotes are perfect because that sounds like something KG would say.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he did say it, but it sounds like something he would say. And for Draymond to sort of react to that is wonderful. And then also revealing that story to us where he basically is calling out KG for being for going into his shell when he played him his rookie year. Great stuff.
All right, Matt, let's bring this show home like we always do with the last of In Case You Missed It. All right. All opinions legal. Yeah, we know. Maddie, you're going to kick it off with number 6. So, Maddie, are you ready?
Oh! While
right,
plenty of people are in love with Justin Fields and believe he will be an elite quarterback, now Colin Cowherd as one of the few labeling him a bust at this moment. Cowherd said on his show, The Herd, he's 5-20 record, 10-game losing streak, passer rating in the 70s. Right now, he's a young QB. He's a YouTube QB. His highlights are great. Right now, Justin Fields is a bust. Do you agree with Cowherd, who once tweeted that Jets fans should get their AFC Championship tickets thanks to a combo when they paired Adam Gase with Sam Darnold?
Cowherd says a lot of shit, but I'm going to actually right now agree with him on this one. I don't think Fields is amazing. Like, he can run, and we know he's a good rushing quarterback. Passing wise, I think he stinks. I don't think he's that good. Not yet, at least. Now, maybe this year, because one of the things with the Bears was they didn't have the greatest weapons around him with, Darnell Mooney, and they got Chase Claypool, and Chase Claypool kind of stunk with them as well. And their best receiver was their tight end, Cole Kmet. Now they have DJ Moore after they made the trade with the Panthers to get it to move down from number 1. So I'm going to temper my expectations just a little bit right now on this whole story. But, there are some things about Fields that I'm not, from a passing perspective, running the ball, he's fantastic. I mean, there's no getting around that. But like we see with Lamar Jackson, the more you run these guys into the ground, the more they're going to get hurt. He's got to get his passing. He's got to get his accuracy up in his passing game. Otherwise, if the Bears aren't winning, yeah, I would put him in that bust category right now.
I mean, I got to wait. I got to see him with weapons. Like, he was his only weapon last year. Like, he was his only weapon, right? His legs were the only weapon that offense had. And he dragged them to those 5 wins, right? Like, he basically dragged them. And against defense, like, they had to lead a couple of those games where their defense blew it late in games too. So
their defense was atrocious last year.
Right. So, like, I can't totally put it on him. But this is Cowherd just being Cowherd, right? Like, he just says shit. But here's the problem. If Fields goes on to be, like, a great quarterback, you think he's revisiting this?
No, of course not. No.
You're like, I was totally wrong about this? No. No. The next dumb shit about the next guy and be an ass.
Yeah, none of these sportscasters ever, like, go back and say, oh, yeah, I messed up with that one. I should have, like, mea culpa type of thing. But you'll learn a lot more about Justin Fields this year because I think that the talent around him is better at the receiver.
It is. Yep. DJ Moore will help greatly.
Absolutely. Number 7, debates popped up all over social media this week with the release of the Madden NFL 2024 player ratings, with fans and even said players not happy with their actual rating. CJ Stroud was not happy he received a 73, and CJ Gardner-Johnson received a rating of 84, making him the 20th highest rated safety in the game. Keep in mind this is a rating on a video game and has no bearing of what happens on the field. To show you how ridiculous this all is, Tua Tagovailoa received a rating of 83, making him the 10th best quarterback in the game despite having multiple concussions last season. Maddie, why are players and fans so salty that they didn't receive a better rating on a video game?
I think it's because they think it is based on their performance in real life, right? I mean, it has to be a little bit, right? So they see it as CJ Gardner-Johnson sees they're using my name and likeness in this video game, and they've rated me as this, meaning that they think that my play is deserving of this. Now, to be honest with you, I kind of agree with it with CJ Gardner-Johnson. He is about the 20th best to me. There's a reason the Eagles didn't re-sign you, dude. Like,
there's a reason a lot of teams didn't sign him in the offseason.
Right. Like you were on a great defense last year and still shit the bed a bunch. So, like, stop. Okay. The other problem, too, is these guys, and listen, I get it. To be a football player, you have to have this mentality that you're the best. But a lot of them can't. They have no self. Like, they can't look at themselves with an honest face, with an honest eye. And so you get this crap. Like CJ Stroud. Like, who? What? Yeah, you're not that good. Like, you're good because you're playing in the NFL, but stop. Okay, just stop. And also, like, why you care? I get it. But, like, at the end of the day, you're in Madden. Shut up. Just enjoy it.
CJ Stroud has never taken an NFL snap, and he has the nerve to be pissed off that he's a 73.
Yeah.
So when you do better in Madden 2025, you'll be better.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Gardner-Johnson. He basically, like, he waited. It took forever to get him a contract. And he wound up signing a below-market deal with the Lions for 1 year, which means he's going to go back on the free agent market next year.
Yep.
So if he doesn't have a good year, he's going to be waiting a long time next year, too, to get signed.
Yep.
You know, I don't play video games anymore, especially the Madden games and everything. But I just think it's funny that these guys are like so freaking pissy about like their rating in the game. Like, it's almost like it's because it's like their egos can't handle the fact that they're just, and it's okay to have an ego as an athlete, as a professional athlete, but it's just hilarious to me that they're wasting this much time on Twitter complaining about the fact they got like an 82 in Madden. Like it's a video game. It's a fucking video game.
Yeah. And the NBA guys do the same thing, dude. They do the same.
They're equating it to like real life. So prove the haters wrong then. If you're not happy with it, then go out and kick asses here. But it's like you're wasting your time going, even one guy was like complaining about Jalen Hurts being an 88. Yeah, he was a great quarterback this year, but who fucking cares? Like, who gives a rat's ass at this point?
Oh, the whole thing is nonsense. Number 8. Let me just get this ready just in case. Number 8, the Orioles took over first place in the AL East and now lead the Rays by 1 game as they play a huge series in Tampa this weekend. With the trade deadline a little over a week away, the Orioles should probably be in the market for some starting pitching. Help made a curious trade with the Oakland A's for pitcher Shintaro Fujinami. The former A's pitcher has appeared in 34 games for the A's with an ERA of 8.57. However, Fujinami has been better of late as he's thrown 8 innings in July and allowed 2 runs and has struck out 10 batters. He's expected to be in the bullpen for the Orioles. For a team that has undergone what seemed like a never-ending rebuild, should the Orioles be thinking big for a starter the August 1st trade deadline?
I think the Orioles need to make moves. This is not a rotation I'd want to go into the postseason with, so to speak. They have a couple of good pitchers, but then they also have their number 1 pitcher is Kyle Gibson, who was basically a journeyman that was with the Phillies last year. This is the best Orioles team that's been on the field in a long time, and you might want to strike while the iron's hot. Now, that doesn't mean you trade guys like Gunnar Henderson or Adley Rutschman or anything like that. You should be in the market for a big-time starter, and you should be in the market for a veteran who has the playoff experience to get you possibly deep into the postseason. Of course, Fujinami's first game with the Orioles, he gets rocked by the Tampa Bay Rays. So the thing is like, you're not doing your team a service if you're just going to make these fringe deals just because you don't want to give up something to get something. The Orioles are going to be fighting for the AL East probably all season with the Rays, possibly the Blue Jays, and I don't ever count the Yankees out.
Yeah,
I never do. So, but the thing is you have to start making bigger deals because those other teams are going to make deals. The Blue Jays are going to probably make deals at the deadline. The Yankees might make a deal at the deadline. I don't know about the Rays. The Rays never seem to make like too much noise. They just never seem to like to give up anything at all. But if I'm the Orioles, this is my time now to show that like I'm going to go all in, try to trade for a starter or two to get me in the postseason. Because that's a pretty solid roster. And if you're just going to make deals like this, you're not doing the team. You're doing the team a disservice, if you want my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they should make a trade. I mean, the only thing I will say, because, whatever they do there, but can Oriole fans just shut up? Like, I get it. You're happy their team's good, and that's awesome. But your team has sucked for, like, so long. Like, can you just not, like, come at me with Yankees suck? Like, I mean, like, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of these fans, Craig. I'm tired of these fans where your team sucks for 10 years. You're good for half a season, and all of a sudden you're talking like you've been good for 10 years. We talked about this. The Rays are the only team that can do that. Get out of here, everybody else, especially Oriole fans with your shit team.
Well, fans can be happy, but I understand what you're saying.
They should be happy.
Like every fan base does this, and like every fan base is guilty of it. It does get tiresome after a while. Like,
dude, you've sucked for so long. Fuck, just take a minute, just enjoy it. Why does everything have to be about the Yankees?
But it's like kind of like what I used to say about with the Packers getting Jordan Love. It's like Jordan Love shows up at OTAs and all the Packer fans are like, see, this is what leadership is all about. This is how. I was like, well, if the fucking Packers really believed in Jordan Love, they would have traded Aaron Rodgers last year for a better deal than what the Jets ultimately gave him.
That is
so
true.
It's like, so give me a fucking break. Just because the guy hits a keypad on a freaking building doesn't make him a leader.
That's true.
So, all right, finally, number 9. Now that the Washington Commanders have been officially sold to a group led by billionaire Josh Harris and minority owner Magic Johnson, Magic hinted that the team could have a new name by next season. Johnson was a guest on the Today Show and said, quote, everything's on the table, especially after this year. We'll see where we are with the name, but I can't say that right now, end quote. The news prompted someone on Twitter to suggest naming the team after the Washington franchise in the movie The Replacements, the Sentinels. Maddie, would that make Shane Falco and Eddie Martell proud?
I mean, maybe, but they can't do that. You can't name it after a team from a movie where the team was a replacement team. You can't do that. I'm telling you, if they do it, they should just go back to Washington Football Team. Like, just go back to Washington Football Team. I don't know why it worked, but it worked really well.
It sounded weird, but it was cool. Like, I thought it was different. I would go back to that team. I love that name.
I would go back to that because, like, again, no other team has it. You'd be truly unique, right? And, like, it's fun. And, like, it doesn't work for any other team, right? Because you're the only team in Washington. Like, it would like Seattle Football Team. Like, it doesn't have the same oomph. You know what I mean? Dallas Football Team. I don't know. For some reason, Washington Football Team just sounds better. That's what I would do, but they're not going to do that. They're going to come up with some stupid name. It'll be like, the Red Raiders or some nonsense like that. It's going to be nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, look, it would be funny to see the Sentinels.
Oh, yeah, it'd be great. I would love to laugh.
It'd be funny.
I would love to laugh at them for it, but they're not going to do that.
You could have like the guy shooting Martell's car, like shooting the window of Martell's car in between stoppages of play or something like that, and foul or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm terrible. Team names just never seem to like mesh. Like every new team that's come in, like the Cleveland Guardians.
The Kraken's the best one.
Yeah, like the Kraken is really good, but I think that they inadvertently struck gold when they had the football team. I thought it was weird watching highlights of like NFL highlights of like a broadcaster, right? Like ESPN, like let's say for example, and they're like, oh, all right, back to the NFL. We have the Packers against the football team.
Yeah,
they wouldn't even say Washington. They wouldn't even say Washington. They would actually call them the football team.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry, like I liked it. I thought it was cool. I would just go back to that.
I would
1000% go back to that, but I don't know what else you can name it in Washington because I don't really know much about Washington. But it's like, what are you going to name it? Like the Senate? Are you going to name it the? I mean, like remember the time?
You don't have to make it political based. You can call them something else, right? Like you don't have to make it like the Washington Democrats or some nonsense like that.
The Bullets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They should know the Wizards. They should go back to the Bullets. The Bullets was a great name.
I know. It's such a good name.
Wonderful name. They changed it to the Wizards.
The Wizards is like such a pussyish name.
Yeah, it's worse.
Or remember the time we talked about the Washington, like when the Redskin name was going to be changed, and somebody suggested the Reagans, and you like just popped like on.
Because Ronald Reagan is the worst president of my lifetime.
I just remember you going apeshit about the Reagans.
Let me just say this for everybody going, what about Donald Trump? Donald Trump was the worst at being presidential. Donald Trump was bad at being presidential. He was bad at being a good face for the country. Ronald Reagan's policies are still destroying us to this day. Trickle-down economics? Ronald Reagan, everybody. Stop. Ronald Reagan sucks.
All right, so Sentinels, no?
No, you can't. Like, I would totally love it, Craig. I would totally love it because I would get to laugh at them all the time. You can't name it after a fictional football team. You might as well just call them the Sharks.
All right, everyone. In case you missed it, is officially over, and this episode of Polar Opposites is over. I'd like to thank everybody for checking us out. You can follow the show on Twitter at Polar Oppo. Follow it on Instagram at Polar Oppo Pod. We're also on Threads if you want to check it out. You can subscribe to the show courtesy of Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Like and comment, leave us a 5-star review because it makes us feel oh so special at the end of the day. Next week, not sure if we're having a show. We will, if we have one, we'll put it out. If not, it'll probably be the following week after. So on behalf of Matt, I am Craig. This has been the Polar Opposites. Wherever you are, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your week. Maddie, take us out.
Bye.